Mark, how do you define the generations, and why do you believe it's important to understand the emerging generations?
Generations now span 15 years. And that gives a good amount of time because within that time, people share and experience the technologies, the events, the social markers that leave fingerprints on a cohort in their formative years is shared within that 15-year time span. Sometimes we think in 2 or 3 year cycles, that's too short. Sometimes if we look over history in 40 or 50 year spans, that's too long. But take the millennials or Generation Y from 1980 through to 1994. That's a transformative era. As they were coming of age, so was the internet, and so was the technology of interaction. And then you've got Generation Z from 1995 to 2009, and that was the era of social media as they were coming of age, and a whole global connectivity. And so from 2010 through to 2024, we've got the next generation. Having got to the end of the alphabet with X and Y and Z, we're going to Generation Alpha, and they're emerging as well. So 15-year span is how generations are defined, and it's not the only segment to look at, but it's the essential first one to understand.
And Mark, how is interaction and communication changing as society evolves?
It's changing massively because we do tend to resemble our times more than we resemble our parents. And our times in terms of communication and technology and interaction have been transformed. I mean, think about the emerging generation into the workforce, the new generation of wealth accumulators. They are global in outlook and digital in tool and social in influence channel. They're mobile in terms of where they'll work and live and interact. And of course, they're visual in terms of the content style that they consume. It's no longer just the written form, it's the visual form.
Mark, when it comes to investing and finance, how are younger generations approaching this in ways that the older generations didn't?
Well, because they're across the peer group and social media, they're more aware of the new investment classes. They're technologically focused. So obviously crypto is something that they're interested in or aware of, whereas the older generations bring a natural skepticism to some of these new investment categories. They, in a sense, don't have that same pattern of history, and so have only seen assets rise, haven't been through the tough times, notwithstanding COVID, which has created great uncertainty and volatility globally, but they haven't had the recessions or indeed seen high unemployment, apart from, again, the little blips of the layoffs in the peak of COVID. So that has given them an optimism and perhaps not the same level of resilience and preparedness for the rainy day that, of course, does come. That's one of the differences we see with them. The older generations bring that skepticism, they bring that longer term perspective, and they know that charts go up, but they also go down, and that does help them diversify a little bit more. So there's a bit more of an education to come for the emerging generation, but at the same time, they're across some emerging assets and new investment forms that the older generation probably won't see the benefit of.
And finally, Mark, we've got millennials and Gen Z coming through now. What comes after that?
Yeah, that's right. Well, there was us Gen Xers and then Generation Y that also are called millennials, and then Generation Z. So Generation Alpha are the children today. They're the children of the millennials, of Generation Y. And so they're being shaped in this whole new level. I mean, they were born in 2010. That's when they began being born. That was the year that Instagram was launched and the iPad came around, and word of the year in 2010 was the word app. So that tells us something about the digitization of their experience. And of course, the age at which you're exposed to these devices, technologies, events determines how embedded it becomes in your lifestyle and in your psyche. And so we can expect the Generation Alphas to be even more of a full-on version of what we're seeing today with the Gen Zs. And so that global digital connectivity will really define them. They're already influencing parental purchases. They're already spending beyond their own means because they can influence others. They are the cohort that the pop culture and the social media world wants to connect with. So they've got power beyond their means. Demographically, they'll be the largest generation globally in history, part of the largest emerging middle class ever and the most formally educated and digitally supplied generation ever. So understanding the Gen Alphas will be key to thriving into the future because of just their influence, their size, and their scale.